This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Lockdown Coverage Week number 9 in the National Football League. NFC South family business. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, that's family business. And right now, the Saints are all about that business. They all about that action, boss. And just ask the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They found out firsthand. As the Saints dispose of the Buccaneers, which these days, who isn't disposing of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? 30-10 for their sixth straight win after starting the season 0-2. What a miraculous turnaround for this Saints football team that no one really thought about going into the season. They were an afterthought for most. Now, all of a sudden, this defense playing with confidence, the offense starting to hit their stride, and they're becoming a dangerous team, and it's becoming increasingly tough to go to the Superdome and win football games. And now all of a sudden, this Saints team that early in the season was a defensive liability, now they're starting to get it defensively. Now the offense is coming along. Now they look like a dangerous football team. They're starting to put it all together. And this was another example of that in this football game, disposing of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 30-10. Buccaneers thinking about shutting down Jameis Winston for a couple of weeks. What did I tell you? And I hate when I'm right about situations like this, but this is how it goes. It's a written law. If Ryan Fitzpatrick is your backup quarterback, your starter at some point going to get injured because Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to start at least a game for you. At least a game. Most likely multiple games. That's what he does. Wherever he goes, he's never just the backup. At some point, he's going to get in, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Houston, whether it's the Jets, whether it's Cincinnati, whether it's the Rams. Yes, he's been to all of those locations, and I may have left out one or two. But that's what Ryan Fitzpatrick does. Wherever he goes, injuries follow, and he finds the lineup. And this is no different here in Tampa. And I told you before the season started, I feel bad for Jameis Winston because he's going to get hurt at some point this season, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to have to start for you. And exactly that's the case right now. But we'll talk about the Bucs a little bit later on because they're the losers in this game. We want to talk about the winners, so we're going to start with the Saints. But before we do that, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. Also, I've got a number of social media platforms that I am subscribed to. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, there's Facebook. Specifically, the Twitter and YouTube links are going to be your biggest friends. If you want to stay in tune to what's going on this channel, that's where you're going to need to be. And so those are the two links that you're going to want to have at your disposal, and turn on those notifications. All those links that I just mentioned down below in the description. Also down in the description is how you can donate to the Louie T Network. There's Patreon, there's PayPal. The Patreon link is the one that you really need to pay close attention to. I recently did a video on how you can get exclusive content on this channel via Patreon if you are to donate. I have different tiers set up, and your donation can land you various different exclusive content videos here on the Louie T Network. So check that out. The link to that video also in the description. Also, how you can donate to Patreon and or PayPal. The link also in the description. So check those out. But let's get to this breakdown quickly. We're going to start with the Saints. I've been so impressed with their turnaround defensively. They're starting to gain a lot of confidence. The A.J. Klein signing went under the radar, but now it's starting to really show its value. And, you know, we see this all the time. Teams in the division know what other teams have. And so when those players become free agents, because you've seen a team twice a year for the last 3 or 4 years, or you've seen a player with a team, and maybe he's not starting in the case of an A.J. Klein, you see him and you're like, hey, this guy can play football. He just needs an opportunity. When he got an opportunity in Carolina, he filled in well for Luke Kuechly. Here's an opportunity here in New Orleans to start a BR, starting inside linebacker. Why don't you come on board? And he's been outstanding for them. Manti Te'o has been healthy, and that's always been his problem in San Diego or Los Angeles with the Chargers. Now he's healthy. He's playing good football. The secondary, which they invested a lot of money, time, energy, resources into, that's starting to come along. Marshawn Lattimore, even though he was blindsided in this game, continues to be a number 1 corner, looks the part of a big-time number 1 corner in this league. And the pressure with Cam Jordan and company up front starting to come up. Okafor playing good football. All of a sudden now Alex Okafor and Cam Jordan starting to form a little bit of a 1-2 punch getting to the quarterback. I like Trey Hendrickson. He's an unsung guy up front as well. And so all of a sudden now things are starting to come together for this Saints defense. They're getting after teams. They're stopping the run. They're playing as a cohesive unit defensively, and that's scary because we know what Drew Brees is capable of, especially when he doesn't have to go out and win the team the game. Because I think a lot of his turnovers come from pressing, come from, okay, I know if I don't go out and will this team to 37 points, we're going to lose because our defense is giving up 35 for sure. So if we fall short and only score 34, we're going to lose. And so I think a number of his turnovers come from pressing. But when he can turn around, hand the football off to Ingram, or throw a dump down to Kamara out of the backfield, I think it takes the burden off of him. And knowing that this defense, if we punt the football, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. The defense can get us the football back, either via a turnover or a stop. We'll get the football back. We don't have to go out and try to make a play on every single possession. It's okay to punt. That makes this team even more dangerous because, like I said, a lot of those turnovers, I believe, from Drew Brees come from him pressing, trying to make things happen, knowing that the defense doesn't have their back, knowing that the defense is a liability and that they have to go out and outscore the other team or else. So all of a sudden now you're seeing the turnovers come down. You're seeing Drew Brees be a lot more efficient with the football. You're seeing Alvin Kamara. I got to stop calling him Kamara. Alvin Kamara catching the football out of the backfield, doing what he did in this game, making plays, which I told you this was the perfect landing destination for him because Sean Payton was going to get the most out of his talents. And he's playing outstanding football for them. And then it's a nice 1-2 punch. They offset each other well, do Ingram and Kamara. And so all of a sudden now, Ted Ginn Jr., the rebirth of Teddy ball game, man. It's fun to watch, okay? I thought he had a fabulous year in 2015. And there's always one of these years for him with every team he's been with. With the Dolphins, when they won the division, he was outstanding in that year. With the Panthers, when they went all the way to the Super Bowl, he was outstanding in 2015. He didn't have that year with the Arizona Cardinals, but he's having one of those years this year with the New Orleans Saints. Brees is utilizing that speed. He's getting behind defenses, and Brees is not missing these deep shot opportunities. Ginn has been outstanding. Teddy ball game is making it happen, and this offense is coming to life. And now there are a number of different targets to get the football to once again for Drew Brees, and starting to open up. And the special teams contributing with a block and a scoop and score for a touchdown. This was a total team win, and this was dominant by the New Orleans Saints at home, 30-10 over the Bucs. For the Bucs, you had to start fast in this game, and you did anything but. You had a chance to pick off Drew Brees, Quan Alexander, and I listened to my man Reed tell me, Quan Alexander is the heart and soul of our defense, and when he comes back, we're going to fix some things. Well, Quan had a chance to make a play. Dropped the pick on the first possession. That turned into a field goal. They block a punt, and next thing you know, you're down 9-0 just like that. And you needed to get off to a fast start. You didn't, and it snowballed from there. And so this is a team that is struggling defensively. We've talked about that. We've chronicled that. But the offense hasn't been good in stretches either. And they've been really spotty. And they've had good halves of football, but they haven't been good for entire games. And this was another game where they just flat out weren't good. Jameis Winston is not right. I said that even last week when he played against Buffalo. I told you the first half of that game, he was throwing wobblers and ducks out there. I said he needs to sit down for a week or two And now the Bucs are thinking about shutting him down for a couple of weeks to let him heal. And look, you're 2-6. You're not going anywhere. So, I mean, if you need to sit him down for even longer than that, by all means, you know, it's all about the future for Jameis Winston. And I didn't have any problems with his pregame speech, with the W and the being hungry. And I don't think a lot of his teammates were really ready for that. But I loved it. I love Jameis Winston. I love his extra motivational speeches before the game. I think he's one of the best in the league at that. And he came with something different. And, you know, when you come with different for the first time, people aren't ready for different. People aren't ready for change. They want the rah-rah. They don't know. They're not giving us a chance. It's us. We all family. We got. Everybody's looking for that kind of rah-rah speech. You know, yeah, everybody can get amped to that. And they weren't ready for eating and being hungry and wanting a W and being ready to go eat. Who want to eat this W? I'm hungry. They weren't ready for that. But and obviously they weren't ready for it on the field either. But in any event, this team is just in total disarray right now. They don't know if they're coming or going offensively, defensively. They can't stop a nosebleed. And even special teams is falling apart at the seams. Remember, they had field goal kicking issues coming into the season that bled into the season. Now your punter is getting punts blocked. This team is just in disarray right now. And it's not going to get better anytime soon for this Buccaneers team with Ryan Fitzpatrick starting probably for the foreseeable future. So it's all bad in Tampa right now. And I can't say I didn't see this coming. I didn't see it being this bad. I thought they would be a lot more competitive than this. But I told you I saw a step-back season coming, and Bucs fans beat me up for it. But I know what I saw, and so you bring in so many new parts, and you know, these are the growing pains. O.J. Howard fumbled in this game. These are the growing pains. You bring in young players. You bring in players from other teams, Chris Baker, Deshaun Jackson. You bring those kinds of guys in, these kind of big personalities. It's going to be a growing process for everybody to assimilate. And so we're going to see how this team responds now that they're 2-6. Do they tank? Do they tuck their tails between their legs and run? Do they fold? Do they get their head coach fired? Because if they don't respond, this could be a Raheem Morris situation all over again. Or do they come ready to play football with Ryan Fitzpatrick as quarterback, rally around him, and find a way to look competitive, because this looked anything but competitive in this football game. And you can see the frustrating bleeding over with Jameis Winston pointing in the back of the head of Marshawn Lattimore, to which Lattimore turns around and it gets in the face of Jameis Winston and then gets bombarded by Mikey. And that got nasty. That got ugly in a hurry. And we saw what that was. So, again, frustration starting to set in. This thing could go one of two ways. You can battle your ass off and compete the remainder of the season, or you could turn into the New York Giants. It's your call. But this game right here needs to mark a turning point in the season, either for better or for worse. But it's going to mark some kind of change, because Winston probably won't play for the next at least 2 weeks. You don't have a bye week, so there's no regroup week. Okay, week 11 bye week wiped away because of the hurricane. You're going to have to rock this thing on all the way out. So the question then becomes, what you going to do? Fight or flight? How to run? Or you going to fight? We're going to see. But the Saints, ain't no hiding, ain't no running from them. They get the win 30-10 in dominant fashion over the Buccaneers, handling that family business the only way they know how this season. Busting ass. Went to Carolina, bust some ass. Got home against the Bucs, bust some ass. So the Saints right now, taking care of business in and outside of the division, playing outstanding football. Let's get to some comments. Darth Vader says, Dirk playing an injured quarterback was horrible. They knew Jameis wasn't right, and they should have sat him. But they saw an opportunity on the road in the division to try to get one, and they've had success in New Orleans. They thought they could sneak one, and they tried, but it's just it's not working right now. Let's see. Reese says, new coach time, Lou. Cutter is not a head ball coach. I've seen enough. Unprepared, poor execution, flat every week. Top on top of a myriad of excuses. Next coach up, please. You were the one trying to sell me on Dirk Cutter, man. You were the one trying to tell me he was a breath of fresh air. When I told you from the jump, this man was not a head coach. I told you I didn't like Dirk Cutter. I told you that from the jump. You said, Lou, I really like this guy. I'm sold on this guy, Lou. I think he's the right man for the job. And I told you flat out no. I said he's not the right guy. So you finally come around, and it took you a couple of years to figure that out. When I told you all along he wasn't the right man for the job. Reese says, the sideline fight with Lattimore and Evans is the epitome of unprofessional. What do you think Jameis was saying to Lattimore? I don't know. I mean, Jameis is an emotional guy. Lattimore probably told him something along the lines of, you know, look at the scoreboard or something like that. And Winston was like, hey, you're a rookie, shut up, something to that effect. And they got into it. I can't begin to tell you because it looked like Jameis was pointing up like they were winning or something. I don't really know what he was saying, but it got ugly quick. That is for sure. Reese says, the last time I saw behavior like this from a Bucs team was when Greg Schiano was the coach. You know as well as I do how toxic of a situation that was. That was a mess. That was ugly, and the Bucs definitely don't want to go down that road again. Reese says, did you see Peyton Barber? He played well. He deserves more. I've been said Peyton Barber. I said the Auburn backs need more touches. With you and Carolina, I said Cameron Artis-Payne needs more touches in Carolina, and I said Peyton Barber needs more touches in Tampa. I've been saying that. But again, no one is listening. John Perez says, I love Jameis Winston, but he and Evans were stupid for getting into it with Lattimore. I mean, it is what it is. Motions run high in this game. It's a physical game. Motions run high. You know, you see that the game isn't going the way you want it to, and you're upset. You're already frustrated, and you see a shot to take on a guy, and you go for it. And I'm not excusing his behavior at all. You know, it was not the right move. It wasn't the thing to do. It was classless. Yes, but shit happens. In the heat of the battle, at the end of the day, shit happens. Not really much more for me to say. Same thing happened with A.J. Green. Sometimes the emotions boil over. You get to a boiling point. It spills over the side of the pot. Those are your end results. Darth Vader says, fire Dirk finally. I mean, what are we in, year 2? It's year 2, right? Right? This correct, year 2? I don't know, man. I don't know. Reese says, thoughts about William Golson. I feel awful for him. I once met him. He always has a smile on his face. Hope his career isn't over. I didn't see the injury, but I heard it wasn't good. So Reese says, Cutter has lost the locker room. That is irreparable. Once you lose it, you can never get it back. So there's no point in retaining him. If that is in fact the case, and I can't confirm nor deny that, but if that is in fact the case, if he has lost the locker room, you can't get that back. That is right. Unless you turn over the entire roster, you can't get the locker room back. And if that is in fact the case, then maybe it is time for him to go. Reese says, Levante David dropped the interception. My fault. My fault. Another one of your inside linebacker leaders didn't make a play. Whoever it was, David or Redhead, doesn't matter to me. They didn't make the play. And for a team that needed to start fast on the road, that was an opportunity that went right through his hands. Let's see. Donald Woods Jr. says, what can we say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point? I think they were overrated coming into the season. The NFL Hard Knocks effect on the Bucs. Hard Knocks is a great program, but it's a distracting program. That's why they make teams that don't make the playoffs have to be on the show. They take the playoff teams out of the equation if they don't want to do it. If they want to do it, if a playoff team wants to volunteer, they can. But no playoff team is volunteering for that because it's a headache to do Hard Knocks because it is a distraction. But it is what it is. Reese says the defense is a sea of apathy. Do you know anything about Mike Smith's scheme? What is he trying to do on defense? Because I'm at a loss. Mike Smith is only as good as his players. Some coordinators, they get the most out of their players even when they don't have a ton of talent. Mike Smith is one of these guys that the only success he has had was with dominant players in Baltimore. That's when he was at his best. His defenses weren't any good in Atlanta. His defense isn't good now. And is it a lack of talent? Maybe, maybe not. I told you, I still argue you don't get enough pressure on the quarterback. I like your linebackers. I don't love them. I know you do, but I don't. And in the secondary, it's a mixed bag. So you're only as good as your parts, especially a guy like Mike Smith. Nathan Long says, was convinced we were going to put up 50 on the Bucs after the fight because everyone was fired up, especially the crowd. Then the injury to Golston happened, and that took the air out. Yikes. John Perez says, what's wrong with Deshaun Jackson? I haven't heard much of him this year except for a couple of good plays. He's not getting the football deep. That's his thing. He's got to make big plays. He doesn't impact the game in any other way other than big plays. And if he's not getting big plays, he's not going to really help you. He doesn't block in the run game. He's a great yards after catch guy, but you got to hit him in stride. And Jameis hasn't been hitting him in stride. He's been making him reach backwards for the football, stop for the football. And if you don't maximize his talents, you won't get a lot out of the package that is known as Deshaun Jackson. Nathan Long says, one of the best free agent classes, Okafor, Ginn, Teo, Klein, Warford. They killed it in the draft and in free agency. Again, sometimes people kill Mickey Loomis. Thought he had a tremendous offseason. Bucs fan says, what do you think of the Bucs coaching thus far? Not good. Not very good at all. Donald Woods Jr. says, Marshawn Lattimore shut down Mike Evans. Deshaun Jackson is good, but not good on this team. Got to give him the football deep, and that's why he went there, because he thought Jameis could get him the football deep. They haven't had the connection just yet, and maybe that connection will come over time, but right now they don't have that continuity that they need to make that deep ball work. The realest sports fan says, Jameis gave the worst halftime speech of all. I don't know if he said anything at halftime, but the pregame speech was epic. Nathan Law says, would you say this is the best draft class? Lattimore, Ramczyk, Williams starting, Kamara balling, Hendrickson got some sacks, Anzalone was awesome until he got hurt. I told you I love the Saints draft. I told you that they were up there for me among the best 2017 draft classes, along with Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and some other teams that I was really impressed with. There are about a good 5 or 6 teams that I thought killed it, and the Saints were one of them. Let's see. And No says, do you think Mike Evans should be suspended for the blind side on Lattimore? No, I don't think he should be suspended. I think they'll slap him on the wrist. He didn't even get ejected out of the game. If it was that egregious of an offense, he should have been thrown out of the game, which he wasn't. Don't suspend him for a game, and you didn't even throw him out of the game that he was in. Just slap him on the wrist with a fine, which they will do, and keep it moving. Nathan Long says, how did he not get kicked out? Now, that's the better question. You would have thought an egregious blindside attack like that would have warranted an ejection. I mean, you could really hurt somebody like that. That's why they take the blindside blocks out of the game, because when a guy isn't expecting it, that's how he gets hurt. And they didn't throw him out. So I don't think a suspension is warranted if you didn't even throw him out of the game. Michael Thompson says, I don't know what you're trying to say. Got to make the comments make sense. Enrique Valencia says, Marshawn Lattimore, the best cornerback in the game. You guys love crowning young players the best in the game, especially you, Enrique. You were ready to call Malik Hooker one of the best safeties in the league. Relax. He's a rookie. Relax. Yes, he's good. Don't call him the best in the league already. He's what? 7, 8 games into his NFL career? Relax. Donald Woods Jr. says, Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara were outstanding yesterday, man. Saints defense is killing it right now. Cam Jordan, Alex Okafor, Kenny Vaccaro, Ken Crawley is underrated. I thought the defense might have played their best game of the season Maybe that in the Carolina game on the road defensively, but I thought the defense was outstanding yesterday. I was really impressed with the defense yesterday. The realest sports fan says the buffoonery was all over the NFL yesterday. It was. Reese says, overall, I don't want us to fire another head coach in just 2 years, but we might not have a choice. We'll see. There's always a choice, Ree. There's always a choice. Jarrell Design says, ready for the Week 11 matchup of Saints and Redskins. Should be a good one. The Redskins would have been a good team without all those injuries, though. I'm not looking forward to that yet because I got the 6-2 Minnesota Vikings coming to the crib. So we got to entertain those guests first before we can pack up our bags and travel to New Orleans. So I got a big one staring me right in the face. So I can't talk about New Orleans in Week 11. I'll be able to talk to you about that one after we figure out what's going to happen with this Minnesota Vikings game at the crib. Donald Woods Jr. says, Manti Te'o, Craig Robinson, A.J. Klein, one of the best underrated front sevens in the NFL. Sheldon Rankins, Tyler Davidson, David Onyemata, good. I like David Onyemata coming out of Canada. I told you he was a talented guy. He was raw, but if they worked with him, there was a lot of talent there. You're starting to see it come to. I actually like Tyler Davidson coming out of Fresno State as well. So I didn't like Sheldon Rankins, but he's proven to be a really solid NFL football player. So there's a lot to like with what the Saints have done and built over the last couple of years via the draft and now free agency. And it's meshing together a lot faster than I thought it would. And that's what happens when you get good football players and you put them in a good scheme together. They fit well. It's starting to come along for them in New Orleans for sure. Reese says, I felt Mike Smith got the most out of the players last year, made Chris Conte look like a stud. It's the total opposite. Well, you got pressure on the quarterback last year, Ree. Pressure is the key. Even Chris Conte can look like a viable safety when you're getting pressure on the quarterback. You were getting pressure on the quarterback last year, Ree. Donald Woods Jr. says, is Sean Payton the coach of the year? What can we say about Drew Brees? Yeah, he's in the consideration, but there are other coaches that we thought less of and didn't expect anything out of that are performing at a higher level. Obviously, the best record in the league right now is 8-1. So obviously their head coach is going to get major consideration in Philadelphia with Doug Peterson. Sean McVay, first-time head coach, has the Rams 6-2, turning around a losing culture over there, making Jared Goff look like an MVP candidate. So, yeah, there's other guys that are ahead in that race, but make no mistake about it, Sean Payton, after starting 0-2 and then reeling off 6 straight, we were talking about Peyton gone. We were talking about Breeze gone. All of a sudden now they're one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, he's definitely in that discussion. Oh, Michael Thompson says, I meant Panthers have a chance to beat New Orleans and take the division. Okay, yeah, speak English. Speak English. Reese says the Bucs are paying the price for not addressing the running back position in the offseason. Doug Martin is done. Dirk has a hard-on for Charles Sims, and I don't know why. I told you that you guys needed to address that position. I didn't know what Doug had left, but I thought you needed to bring in another guy. And there was an opportunity to do that in this past year's draft, and you guys didn't do it. Donald Woods Jr. says, Cam Jordan is the best defensive end in the NFL. I won't go that far to say that. I think he, right now, is playing outstanding football, though. And if you're talking from a pure 5 technique standpoint, yes, he's the best 5 technique in the entire National Football League. I'm going to answer a couple more and then we get out of here. John Perez says, was it a good thing for Manti Te'o to go play elsewhere after struggling with the Chargers? I think when a guy struggles as a first-round pick in a situation, or even a second-round pick for that matter, sometimes a change of scenery is exactly what they need. And for him, injuries were the biggest reason why he didn't perform at the level they wanted him to with the Chargers. Now he's healthy and he's performing at a high level for the Saints. N.O. says, assuming the Saints make the playoffs, obviously looking that way, looking way too far in the future. But do you think they can contend with the Eagles in a playoff game? Why not? I still don't think the Eagles are great defensively, even though their defensive line is outstanding. Sure. Look, anybody can be beaten in any given week in this league. We've seen that time and time again this season. So, yeah, absolutely, they can. Remember, and I know it's a different season and at different times, but remember, the Saints went to Philadelphia and beat them in the first round of the playoffs the last time they were in the playoffs. So it's not out of the realm of possibility at all. Obviously, Chip Kelly led Eagles team, different time, different team. I get it, but anything's possible. Reese says, worst defensive line I've ever seen, and I watched Daquan Bowers play. You're retarded, Ree. I can't with you. Donald Woods Jr. says, can you see Mark Ingram getting 1,000 yards this year? Yeah, I mean, it's not. All you have to do is average 63 yards a game, and you get 1,000 yards in an NFL season. It's not that hard to do. All right, let's get out of here. We spent 30 minutes on this game that didn't deserve 30 minutes, man. Saints destroy the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 30-10, run their record to 6-2. They're playing outstanding football, are the Saints, and I'm just so impressed with their defense and the amount of turnaround that we've seen in such a short amount of time. Remember, this is the same defense that we looked at earlier in the season and said this is going to be a problem for them again this season. And all of a sudden now it's turning into one of the strengths of this football team. Ted Ginn Jr. is experiencing a resurgence. He's playing outstanding football. The offense is really doing a good job of taking care of the ball and getting the football to multiple players. Mark Ingram, Kamara, Ginn. They're spreading it around. Michael Thomas still involved. They're getting Kobe Fleener involved a little bit. So they're a dangerous football team right now in New Orleans. They're even blocking punts and scooping and scoring those as well. For Tampa, it's the direct opposite. The record is the direct opposite at 2-6. Their team is going in the direct opposite direction. They're talking about a mutiny in the locker room potentially, and the head coach losing the locker room. It's a mess in Tampa. Their quarterback may have to miss the next couple of games with an injury. It's all bad in Tampa right now, and I don't know if there is any positives in sight anytime soon for this Buccaneers football team. That's going to do it for lockdown coverage of Bucs and Saints. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I will see you next time. Have a good one.